Welcome to All the Things with Sarah Jean. This podcast is for you if you're ready to start living the life your soul came here to live, awaken your truth, inner power, unlimited potential, and magic, claim your desires, and intentionally manifest your dream life. The wisdom, tools, perspectives, and inner work I bring forth here are the exact ones that I use to go from being a chronically anxious, mood-swingy, reactive, unfulfilled, validation-seeking person who was numbing her life through binge and emotional eating, Netflix, and social media, and was staying small, living based on other people's terms, to a woman who owns, claims, and feels my worth, enoughness, and inner power. I'm now embodied in inner peace. I choose to walk with fear as I take risks and move toward my dreams, and am manifesting and creating the wildly magical, expansive, and fulfilling life, business, and relationship my soul came to this earth to experience. Now, this is not to say that I'm perfect. I wholeheartedly believe that we're all on a journey of evolution, healing, and growth over our entire lifetime, meaning there's no end game for this work and uncovering our highest potentials. There's always another level. I absolutely still face moments of doubt, anxiety, stress, sadness, and overwhelm, and every human emotion on the spectrum. I just don't let them drive and run my reality anymore. My goal with this show is to let you in on the highs, lows, and in-betweens of every area of my life and how I flow through all the things with the devotion to creating and having my absolute best human adventure. Throughout this episode, I'm inviting you to take what feels like a yes to your soul and give yourself permission to let the rest go. The thoughts, opinions, and perspectives I share here have been uncovered in my life through my own experiences as a white, privileged, straight, able-bodied woman with all five senses. And currently I do have a partner, but we do not have children yet. While these things influence my experiences and perspectives, I fully believe that every human on the planet has the ability to unlock their truth and highest potential, create inner peace, expansion, and joy, and manifest the lives their souls desire and came here for. If I ever say anything harmful or offensive and you feel called to reach out about it, please do, as I'm open to doing better and appreciate your feedback. And I speak on the show the way that I coach my clients. I'll never say, ask, present, or question anything here that I wouldn't to them. With that, know that my clients pay me to be real with them, to shine light on the things they aren't seeing or don't want to look at so they can release and begin to heal what's really holding them back, leading to rapid evolution and transformation. I am so beyond happy to have you here, and I'm extremely grateful that I get to do this life by your side. Let's go to the show. Hello, magical souls. Welcome back to the show. I am so excited to get into today's episode where I interviewed a dear friend, peer, and client, Victoria Lee Starr. I'll introduce her in a moment, but before I do, I want to chat with you a bit about something that I've been feeling very deeply about. You may have already heard of this, you may have seen it on my social medias, but if not, or even if you have, maybe you want to hang out and hear me actually speak on this for a moment. March is Women's History Month, and it is right around the corner if you are listening to this in real time. And once I realized that Women's History Month is upon us, from somewhere very deep in my body, so I know this came from my soul, from source, God, universe, whatever you believe the higher power is, I heard the sentences, "One day, we're going to be the ones that future generations remember and look back on during Women's History Month." And then came the question, how do we want them to remember us? Now, I've definitely asked myself and my clients this question before, but it was more from the perspective of my life and their lives, as in when we get to the end of our lives, how do we want to look back on our individual lives? And really asking yourself this question, which we'll definitely dive into within the free masterclass that I'm about to talk about, it really can help bring through that motivation, that inspiration to create your best life and become and embody your highest self until the day your physical body dies. Because we don't want to get to the end of our lives and look back and be like, oh shit, I didn't do all the things that I wanted to do. I didn't become who I know I really am. But this question from the perspective of how do we as a population, as society, as the women of the world want future generations to remember us as a whole, it just brings an entirely different energy and like this layer of power and impact. This realization that we as a whole have the power to change the way in which the world is going, a very memorable legacy that future generations, that the future society of this world will look back on and be so, so grateful for. So if I personally got to choose, if I had a say in the way in which they'll remember us one day during Women's History Month, when they're looking back on us, I would choose that they remember us as the women who created an entirely new paradigm of what it means to be a woman. They'll remember us as the women who healed decades of generational conditioning, wounding, and limitations so that humanity can finally thrive and live the lives our souls came here to live. And not just women, but all genders, all people, all folks of the world. And I truly believe that we now have the wisdom, we now have the tools, we now have the guidance and the resources to make this a reality. If I got to choose, they'll remember us as the women who brought forth the bold, confident, powerful, empowered, courageous woman that we are at our core. Because this is the truth, like we are these things. Those words I just spoke, that is who we actually are. And any parts of us who aren't living in alignment with being bold and confident and powerful, empowered and courageous are just parts of us that are hidden by the wounding, by limiting beliefs of society or our upbringing or whatever it is. If I got to choose, they will remember us as the ones who finally said yes to our intuitions. We have been living for way too long, relying more on other people's thoughts and opinions and perspectives and advice over our intuitions, who actually have the answers, who actually hold the keys and the paths to the life that we are here to live. So I want our future generations to look back on us and remember us as the ones who made listening to our intuitions the norm, who said yes to feminine energy. Again, could go down an entire rabbit hole here, but we're living in this very wounded masculine energy society. There's so much wounded masculine. All the people of the world, it's creating burnout, overwhelm, stress, anxiety. It's creating this deeper wound of I am not enough. I want them to look back on us and remember us as the ones who said yes to feminine energy, who said yes to pleasure and desire in life. Again, pleasure and desire are two things that we're taught from a young age. You shouldn't want, or you shouldn't bring forth, or you should hide. F that. I am here to say that we are here to live lives full of pleasure and desire. I want them to look back on us and see us as the ones who said yes to genuine sisterhood. Again, could go on forever. And you guys have heard me speak about this before, about how much sisterhood wounding is out there, about how much women don't trust other women and leave other women out of things and talk poorly about other women. F that. That doesn't get us anywhere. That takes us a billion steps back. I want them to look back on us and say, oh my gosh, those women were the ones who finally said yes to genuine, loving sisterhood. Those women were the ones who held hands and decided to finally rise together, which is what created the change for our planet. I want them to look back on us and see us as the ones who said yes to healing, who stopped settling for suffering, who stopped settling for living life from this wounding and this trauma response and said yes to healing. I want them to see us as the ones who awakened the inner magic and magnetism that has always resided within human bodies. And again, this is not just women, it is all folks of the world. We all have this inner magic and this inner magnetism, and we're just simply disconnected from it right now as a society. I want them to look back on us, and every March in the future, they see us as the women who finally shook and woke up that inner magic and magnetism that lies within us and has the power to create these amazing dream lives, dream realities for ourselves while in this lifetime. So if you are feeling as activated as I am right now in the best way, if you're ready to claim and create this life for yourself so that you can be a part of making a profound impact on the world and the way that humans, especially women, experience life forever, then you are invited to unleash the woman within who has the power to do this with me and with other magical souls in my brand new masterclass, Unleashed. They're gonna remember us, they're gonna look back on us, so let's give them something to remember. This is a free for now masterclass experience. Let me explain the for now. So my masterclasses typically start out as a free offering for a couple of weeks. And then once that 2 weeks goes by, I close doors. I kick everybody out of the Facebook group that we'll do this in. And then this becomes a paid offering. So if you join now, or at least within the next 2 weeks, but I recommend joining now. So A, you don't forget, and B, you can join this experience live. If you can make it work with your schedule, then you'll get it for free. So this is, like I said, 3 days where you'll be held in a high vibrational space that will serve as a launch pad for you to blast off into leading a life that will be transformative and memorable AF. If you've learned anything from me by now, I'm sure that you realize that the way in which to create this movement is by claiming this life for yourself, leading this life yourself, and then therefore leading by example. So this masterclass specifically includes 3 trainings on becoming this woman or the woman that you know you are deep down. You're going to be able to join me this round on Zoom if you want to, or you can always stream these on Facebook Live within our private community. Speaking of, you're going to get a community full of like-minded women on the same mission. This will be within our private Facebook group and also within the Zoom chat. If you choose to join me on Zoom, you guys will be able to see me, I'll be able to see you, you'll be able to see each other, and you'll be able to chat in the little chat box. You're going to receive soul work and practices for embodiment on all the things you learn within the masterclass. There will also be a rolling Q&A with me on the topics that we flow through. So you can ask any questions throughout the trainings. I'll also have a little Q&A thread posted in our Facebook group that you can ask questions on. So we begin March 1st, which is the kickoff of Women's History Month, March 1st, 2023. We have trainings on March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, but if you're not listening to this in real time, so if you are, we start on Wednesday. And if you aren't, you'll just have to join by March 24th in order to get this for free. You can go through the replays. So if you join now and you can't be there March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd live, again, you can always catch those replays. They'll be available to you for about 2 weeks. So you'll have until March 24th to join. If you listen to this after March 24th and you want to join, you can always DM me or my team for the paid link to enroll. Y'all, we are bringing the fire into this portal. You, without a doubt, if you show up for all the calls and you're engaged and you participate, you will totally leave feeling lit up and inspired as fuck to go create a badass, expansive reality for yourself and your loved ones, and also a badass and expansive version of yourself that's going to shake the world and society in the best way possible. So the link to register for this is in the show notes. It also is probably posted in my storyline on Instagram and Facebook, and can also be found in the link in my bio and Instagram. Of course, if you cannot find it for whatever reason, you can always DM me and ask me for the link. But go to the show notes. It should work. You can register, enroll, check your email. You'll get all the details, everything you need to know, Zoom link, etc. I'll let you into the Facebook group like 10-ish minutes before we start our first call, and then we'll get to riff and connect in there for the following 3 days. All right, now let's get into today's show. I am so grateful to introduce to you today our guest, Victoria Lee Starr, soul activation coach and breathwork facilitator. Victoria and I met 2 years ago in our breathwork teacher training with the Healing Couple, and she then became a friend, peer, and client. So our relationship is very multifaceted, and I am so grateful for it. She inspires the fuck out of me, you guys. I cannot wait for you to hear more about her and her journey. I'll speak to this a bit more in the show, but this woman is such a badass. She is 53 years young, and she has created an entirely new life for herself. You're going to hear all about this, but long story short, when she turned 50, she really woke up to the life that she desired to live, and she started to create a new reality for herself. She left the marriage that was no longer serving her. She started a new business. She bought a van and started living van life. She is now traveling the United States, meeting the most amazing people, facilitating breathwork at van festivals. Just if you follow her on Instagram, which I highly recommend, you'll see the dreamy, vibey AF life that she lives. And not only that, but you guys have to go check out on her Instagram, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see her, how freaking radiant this woman is. And we get into all the details on why she believes that she looks as young as she does at the human age that she is. Her mindset, her beliefs, her outlook on getting older and aging is completely opposite than what society wants us to believe. And I really feel, and so does she, like that's a reason that she's living this kick-ass life, because she doesn't surrender to what society wants us to believe about ourselves, especially as women. She said, F that, and she created her own beliefs, her own stories, and now, of course, that has become her reality. So without further ado, let's go to the show. Victoria Lee Starr, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. Okay, let's just start this episode off by you sharing with us where you're at right now.
Oh my gosh. All right. So we are in January 24th of 2023, and I am in Mexico, Baja California, Mexico, however you say it. Right outside of a huge kite surfing area known as La Ventana. And like, I'm not a kite surfer. There's a lot of freaking wind, but there's sunshine, blue sky, and amazing, beautiful water.
So dreamy. And you guys, before we started this episode, she just got food delivered to her right in her van, which you guys will hear about later. Like, living the freaking life. And let's just make it clear that Victoria is not on vacation right now. She is in this dreamy place getting food delivered to her midday, because this is the life that she's created for herself. And we're going to get into it in this episode. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this was after yoga this morning in a palapa overlooking the ocean.
Hell yeah. Hype it up. So this is her life. Yeah. And you may be asking yourself, why, how? So today's episode is going to be just a full ass permission slip to create an entirely new life for yourself, no matter what your human age is. Because Victoria, would you mind sharing what your human age is?
I am 53 years young.
53 years young. Okay, let's speak to this real quick, because I remember one day I asked how old you were, and you told me that. I'm 53 years younger. I don't know if you were probably like 52 or 51 at the time. Victoria and I, we have this beautiful friendship that goes a couple years back. And so I sat with that, and what I started to think of is the truth that all of you right now listening, and Victoria and I, we are all the youngest that we'll ever be, but we're not the oldest we'll ever be. So like, why do we say, I was just sitting with this, I'm like, why is it such a societal thing to say I'm X years old? It doesn't even make sense. It's like, but right now you're the youngest you'll ever be, but you're not the oldest you'll ever be. So why? I feel like it's a patriarchy thing, but then there's like another part of me that thinks about kids, and when they say, like, they obviously as kids, we all want to feel like grown up. We want to feel like big kids. So I guess if societally we were to start saying, I'm 3 years young, or I'm 2 years young, like, little kids might have their feelings hurt, but not if we normalize it.
No, that's what I was going to go back to as a kid. Like, we always wanted to be older. We always wanted to be more advanced. And like, I remember being, I don't know, 15 and wishing I was older so I could drive the car and, things like that. Yeah. So as we get older, I don't want to be older. I want to be younger, but it's just a freaking number.
Totally.
Like, truly, really, like, that's how I feel in my soul. It's like, it's just a number.
Yep.
And it doesn't represent who I am.
Preach, girl. I mean, you guys, I'm just so And you guys will understand why as we flow through this episode, but I'm just so inspired by Victoria Lee Starr for the life that she is building for herself at 53 years young. Like, I know so many humans who are in their 50s, human age, because I believe that our souls have a different age, but episode for a different day. I know so many humans who are in their 50s, 60s, even 30s and 40s who wouldn't dare to build a new life for themselves like you've done and you're doing. And it's just so inspiring to me how you're living your life, how you're choosing to live it, regardless of what society says about your human age. So let's get into it. Before we do, I want to shine some light just while we're on this topic on a couple of stories that I found on the internet. I've seen these before, but before this episode, I'm like, let me just look some up because for me, I am always so inspired when I read stories like this of other people. So again, just more permission for you guys to start now, no matter where you're at or how many years young you are. So I didn't know this one. This is one that I just learned today. Harry Bernstein started writing his first novel, which was called The Invisible Wall. Do you know who this is?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So I've heard of him before. He has a book called The Invisible Wall, a love story that broke barriers. He started writing this book when he was 93.
Wow.
And he gained literary fame at age 96 when it was published.
That is amazing.
Right?
That is
Like
such
full body chills.
full body chills. Yes.
Morgan Freeman, we all know Morgan Freeman. So when he graduated high school, he joined the Air Force to become a fighter pilot. I love this story because he actually chose a career, right? Like so many of us, we graduate college, we choose a career, we feel like we're stuck there forever until we retire. So he chose to join the Air Force but like acting is his soul's, I'm reading Alchemist right now, I just finished it. It's his personal legend. So eventually he finally listened to his heart and he shifted into becoming an actor. And he wasn't 50 until he landed his first big break in the movie called Street Smart. So another.
And he's a legend.
A legend.
A legend. Yeah.
An absolute legend. And then the other one, and we all know her name as well, is Martha Stewart. I didn't know this about her either. She didn't really begin to blow up until she was 41. Her first cookbook was published when she was 41 human years young, which is so cool because like look at where she's at now.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, Victoria, I would just love for you to give my listeners overview of your life, drop pieces in about your running journey, and then also this transition into van life as well.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So thank you. Thank you, Sarah, just for allowing me to share my human experience so that it can be a catalyst for somebody else to live like, as you say, in a heart-centered space. Because as a child, I was an only child, and growing up, I look at like, this is the first chunk of my life. This is now this chunk of my life. And the first chunk of my life is I recognized at the age of 50, living my life hidden, playing small, living my life for other people, people pleasing, making sure everybody else was happy, making sure everybody else was comfortable, and recognizing through, we'll get into this later, I'm sure, through breath work, like my soul literally was freaking hidden, trapped behind these iron bars. Like through this breath work journey, I saw this vision of my light holding on to these iron bars, just shaking, trying to get out. And it was that I recognized that everything prior to 50 was all right. It was life, but it was that learning lesson to where I have now transmuted, transported, rocketed, however you want to say, launched myself into this life that I'm absolutely in love with. So before, so I had an only child also, a girl. She was born when I was 26, and I recognized like I wasn't active. I was being a mama and totally okay with that. But also there was something inside of me, like I needed something to release the tension that was inside of me. Being a mama. Like here I am, a wife, I'm a mama, but like I'm trapped. Like I
Yeah.
needed to release a whole bunch of stuff. So I got into running. And because it's simple, you don't need a gym membership. I actually got a dog so that she would inspire me to run every
Love it.
day.
Yeah. So good.
So I ran from this place, and then I it was a beautiful thing, but then that whole people pleasing, that whole finding my worth in somebody else's approval of me stepped in a big part, in a big freaking way, to where like I started running event races to try to get that recognition from my community, from my partner, from my parents, most importantly from my
Mm-hmm.
parents. Like
Mm.
not from me, but it was from, I wanted recognition from everyone else.
Okay,
But
wait, real quick. You broke up for a
yeah.
second. So you were saying that you started running at 27 as an outlet from being a mom, which I think is, first of all, so inspiring. And I'm sure that all the moms listening to this right now, that just feels like bliss in their body to even imagine having an outlet for all that tension that's built from being a mom and a wife. So you say that you started running and then eventually you're saying that the running kind of transitioned and doing it for other people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So that go ahead.
So I want to come back to this because I feel like this is going to transition to your next big one, but I just want it real quick. Can you just drop, because I know that there's a lot of different pieces of this that are going to be so beneficial, and I also just want you to drop in your truth that you didn't start running until 27, and how many different races and things have you ran since?
I've ran 6 open marathons. That means just the running by itself. I've run countless 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, but I've also done 6 Ironman races, including qualifying for the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii, which was unbelievable. So that's like the pinnacle of Ironman. And then I also, as a 40-year-old female athlete, qualified for the Boston Marathon with a PR race in Southern California.
Holy shit. I keep getting chills everywhere. And every time I hear your story or remember that, I'm just so inspired. Like, again, you guys, she started running when she was 27 years young. And I know that there are limiting beliefs in society because I used to hold them, that the people who run these big races, they've been running their whole life. They did cross country, they did track, like they've always been into running. And you are proof that you can start at 27 years young if you desire to, or, even quote unquote older than that, you can learn how to love running. Which,
Absolutely.
let's just drop your course right now, because Victoria has a course called Learn to Love Running, which we'll get into later. And I'll, of course, share the link to it in the show notes. But it's just very inspiring to me how you didn't start until 27 and then you went on to it. And now, aren't you considering doing more races at this point in time?
Yes. So at the age of 50, I ran my first ultra marathon, and that was really the first time that I truly, truly in my heart loved running. I
Mm-hmm.
was doing it for me.
Mm.
It was to heal a broken heart from my dad passing away, but also like really tapping into the awareness of what beautiful place, this planet that we live in, that we get
Mm.
to
Mm-hmm.
experience. So that was at the age of 50.
Okay,
And
so now back it up and like go back into what you were saying. So you started running and then like it started becoming for other people.
yeah, so that whole desire and that whole innate need in me to be of worth to my parents and to be seen, and I thought to be loved would, if I achieved success in athletics, meaning running or triathlons, that I would be loved, that I would be liked, that I would be felt worthy, and that I would be enough.
Mm.
So which never going to diminish the hard fucking work it took me to get to that level of athleticism,
Mm-hmm.
because it was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
hard work. But in the same token, I recognize now looking back is that was from a very wounded masculine place where I was doing this to get the approval of other people. I would beat
Mm-hmm.
myself up for missing workouts. If I didn't run an acceptable expected qualifying time on a certain run or a certain race, like I would literally go into a depression. And it was really and that aspect too, Sarah, is I I was very little as far as weight. I weighed 118 pounds when I was racing. So that was from a very wounded place of nourishing my body too. I wasn't healthy,
Yeah.
where now I'm 130 pounds and I feel so much healthier, so much more alive in my body. So like again, I'm not diminishing the hard work that I did. And I'm very proud of myself for achieving that.
Yeah.
And yet now seeing that there's such a different balance to running, to athletics, to just loving on yourself.
Yeah. And now you're doing it from like more of that like heart-centered place. And at 50, it sounds to me like you started to bring that feminine essence within or into running, which is typically a very masculine thing. And of course, there are masculine dynamics in that. But I think it's super cool how you've started to bring the energetics and the feminine essence into an activity like that. Because, I feel like, and this is a little off topic, but I almost feel because, something that a lot of people struggle with is that motivation to be consistent with moving their bodies. And I've been there. I totally have been there. And I feel like that's a missing link is like, especially because I work with a lot of women and myself when I used to struggle with it too. It's like working out and being like physically active is such a masculine activity that it can be hard for women who innately feel more pleasure within that feminine energy to force themselves to keep showing up for something that's so masculine. I mean, I'm even speaking this out loud, I'm going through this a little bit right now because I just started getting back into Fit Body Bootcamp, which I absolutely love. And I've noticed that there's still little resistance on days like getting there. Once I'm there, I love it. But it's like what you're doing is kind of like I see you as like the bridge to that. You're bringing in a feminine essence into a very masculine thing, which I'm sure makes it so much easier to show up for. It's like now running something you look forward to versus I'm doing this because I have to do this for somebody else.
Yep. Yep.
So good.
There's a gap between my last marathon, which was the Boston Marathon, to when I did the ultra. So there's a 10-year gap in there, Sarah, that I want to share because it speaks to what you just talked about. Is I spent those 10 years doing CrossFit at a high level, but then I recognized what I really love doing was lifting weights. Like my body is really built to lift weights also. So I got into Olympic weightlifting and I competed in Las Vegas in the open, and I had an age group record at the time. So again, that's coming back to that space that you're speaking of being in a gym and lifting weights and being very masculine and very rigid, and recognizing too that, and I want to ask you is like, who are you doing this for? When in those 10 years of doing CrossFit and weightlifting, like who was I doing that for? Was I doing it for me? If I was doing it for me, then I would see a whole different shift of the mind and a different perspective of being in the gym and recognizing that, wow, my body is able to do this. My body is very beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, frick, I can't back squat X amount of weight. I'm okay with that.
Right. Totally.
Like I'm better at something else. But
Yeah.
like coming back to is like, who am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? What's my desire? Where is it driven from?
Yeah. Like connecting back to that why, which is so energetic. And the masculines, the doing, the feminines, the being. So it's like, who are you being as you show up to running or to the gym or to training for these races or whatever it is? Because that's going to change your entire experience of it.
Exactly. There's
so good.
Yesterday I recorded my module on part of this energetic shift for my Learning to Love Running course. And it taps into that. Okay, so you have the course that's in that masculine structure, which is great because it's like a guide.
Right.
But also within that, there's that fluidity of before you go out for a run, let's prime your heart and lungs to get ready for a run. Let's simply do some breath work activity.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes into that feminine flow.
Totally.
And then once you have your shoes on, you step out the door, look at your surroundings, just tap into the beauty and nature of like 5 things that you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things
Mm-hmm.
you can smell. And I don't know if you want to taste some grass, that's totally okay. But I mean, but really it's that feminine of like, okay, I'm here on the beach. I get to run here. What's
Yeah.
around me?
So
How
good.
blue is that sky?
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
shift.
So good. I love it. And it's like, it's really bringing so much beautiful presence into life versus like, I remember back in college, this was before my healing journey even started. So it was like, I didn't have the greatest relationship to food in my body. And I remember like finding ways, I'm like, it's so much easier to run on the treadmill if I'm super distracted. So how can I distract myself? I'd watch like Netflix shows on the treadmill and I would, find something to distract my mind from running. And it's like looking back on it, that was so not enjoyable. It's cringy. I still struggle to, and I don't, but sometimes I'll go to the gym with Zach and I cringe when I see the treadmills because I'm like, it brings me back to that place. It's just like thinking about distracting myself via Netflix, running on a treadmill versus running outdoors, being present, being immersive in the experience, bringing through that feminine. It's just so much more enjoyable, which, and you've probably heard me say this before, but I always say like our souls came in these physical bodies and to experience the material realm.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, our souls know how to naturally keep our bodies healthy and alive. So like with people struggling with like the exercise motivation and the food and body stuff, it's just like your soul has that natural motivation, has that natural desire to move and to nourish. It's the mind and the story that creates that resistance. So being able to tap into that is just so cool.
Yeah, it's shutting off the mind and shutting off what society says that what you should do and who you should be. It's like, it's just shutting that off and listening to what's in here,
Yeah.
listening to what's in your heart, listening to what's inside of you. And I want to come back to real quick, Sarah, is like at the end of the day, really, truly, any of us doing athletics, there's such a very, very, very small percent of people that get paid to do it.
Yeah.
Such a small percent. And so at the end of the day, we're not getting paid to do it. So let's make it enjoyable. Let's make it fun.
Yeah.
Let's make it
Right.
like, so it's like we want to do it again tomorrow. So
Yeah. Well, you just heard me talking about this. What was it, yesterday? Yeah, it was when I was it's kind of ironic because we're recording for my podcast right now, but some of you may already know this by the time you listen, but I was planning on launching my podcast on my birthday, which is January 30th. So as of this recording, it's like 6 days away. And I've given myself permission to push back the launch to, I don't know, sometime in February. But I was just talking about enjoying the journey. It's like with your goals, what's the freaking point if you don't enjoy the journey? So I know Victoria, that, and I don't know if you like want to talk about this or not, but I know that somebody recently just hired you as her private coach to help her. What is she running? A marathon?
she's running a marathon. She's running the Rock and Roll Nashville Marathon in April.
Super cool. So it's like, okay, that's her goal, right? It's a beautiful goal. I want to run this rock and roll marathon. It sounds fun. Like it just would feel so good to accomplish something like that, to achieve it. Amazing. But what's the point of running that marathon and achieving that goal if you dread the journey to being able to achieve that goal? So I'm so excited for her that she's working with you privately to learn how to enjoy the process of getting to the point where she can run that marathon. So it's like with goals in general, whether it's like physical goals, you want to run a marathon, you want to, like, something for me is I would love to like hike a big mountain one day. That's a dream of mine. But it's like, what's the point of achieving that goal if you absolutely hate the process of becoming? So I think it's so beautiful what you're bringing in. Okay, I want to convert because I feel like, so we talked about the running, and I feel like this is a really good place to transition into, because you had told us at the start of this episode that, but like you see life after 50 as it's like a new life, and before 50 was very much so learning. And so now why don't you tell us, because we hinted that you're in freaking Mexico and doing yoga and getting food delivered to yourself, and like this is your way of living. Why don't you share with us a little bit about your journey of transitioning into van life and like what went into that decision, and like, yeah, just all the things around that.
Oh my gosh. Where to start? So I'm going to go back to where I did breath work. My first breath work session was in San Diego by our mentors, the healing couple. Um, that sorry, Olivia just did a little distraction for me coming back to the space.
Olivia's
Olivia,
her dog, by the way.
so my first breathwork session was like 3-ish years ago in San Diego, and I recognized in that time is like I desired to push myself out of my comfort zone. I was so inside of my box that I was doing the same thing, same repetition, same, I mean, everything was just like redundancy, and I was really not enjoying life. And found a beautiful yoga studio in San Diego, and I'm like, okay, there's this breath work. What is this? I'm going to go try it. So everything in my being that night, walking into the studio, my being was drawing me, but my mind was like, oh fuck, this is so new, you don't know what's going to happen, go the other way. And I walked into the room of 40 complete strangers. Here's these two beautiful people at the front of the room, and I walked in there, and this lady next to me, she like made me feel so welcome and so at home. Like, okay, well, I'm just gonna stay. After this hour journey through this, I don't know what had happened to me, like just transformed. My whole body was just like vibrating as if I was levitating off the ground, like full body chills, and like literally I see myself levitating off the ground. I walked out of the studio and I'm like, holy hell, what just happened? I need more. But even the icing, the sprinkles, like you'd like to say, the sprinkles on top of the cake, is I lived in Coronado at the time. And if you're not familiar with Coronado, when you leave San Diego, this 90-degree massive bridge into Coronado going over to San Diego Bay. And I'm a Cancer sign, full, give me all the emotions, give me all the feels. The moon was coming up over Tijuana, massively full.
Oh,
And my whole body just was like, I can't even tell you, like, alive. I still have full body chills talking
I
about
just got them
again.
too. I got them all down my body when you just explained that. Holy moly, powerful.
Yeah, over the water, the moon, experiencing this breath work, and I'm like, this has just shifted my entire being.
Wow.
Well, then the whole country got shut down. They had to stop. I ended up moving to Costa Rica and spent spent a year there. And that year there, I was doing virtual breath work with my mentors, and I really began to shift that vision of my soul, that light behind the bars. And I started witnessing my arms pulling back the bars, pulling them open as if
Ooh.
like, okay, maybe I can move through. But I recognized that I was in a toxic relationship, one that was very emotionally traumatic for my soul. It wasn't in alignment with where I wanted to be. And one day I decided that I can't live like this anymore. I packed up one suitcase, my dog, left the perfect life from what was perfect from the outside, living close to the beach, living in the jungle, having all this beautiful beach and ocean and things, but it wasn't fulfilling my heart. It wasn't nourishing me. And so I left Costa Rica, left the relationship that was no longer serving me, and I moved back to the States. Began really, truly, that was like the bottom. That was like my dark night of the soul. That whole, you actually were part of that whole transformation for me.
Mm. 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 Mm.
And, 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 thank you. moving through that space of the breath work and seeing these beautiful people surrounding me, and literally the bars were opened so that my soul could go through and I could now live for me, and I
Yeah.
could live for what lights my fucking heart on fire.
Yeah.
Because you've heard me say this before, is my desire, and I have this written in the van, is to get to the end of life skidding sideways into the grave going, holy shit, what a fucking ride. Side note, don't bury me, I want to be cremated, but that's just the
Deal. Victoria, okay, we have so much to dive into. I have full body chills, like I got them a billion times. I want to know, and I know that this may be hard to put into words because, as you and I both know, as any of you who have practiced breath work, you probably realize it can be really hard to put these experiences into words. But like what I'm seeing right now, or the thing that's coming through me, is I know a lot of people who are married and not happy. They're not leaving. I know a lot of people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 40s, 20s who are like, I'm living this, like what you were saying, this mundane life. It's like same shit every day. Same shit, new day. And they could sense that there's something deeper, like, but they're not gonna do it. And I'm not necessarily, if you're here listening to this right now, you're probably not one of those people. Like, let's just put that out there. You were magnetized to this episode for a reason. So I want to know, Victoria, like what mindset, what beliefs, what energetic, like where was your faith? Like what did you need to put your faith and your belief in order to take this leap? Like what was it? I know that you said breath work and starting to see, were you like seeing visuals, or like what was it that really had you like, all right, I'm doing this. It's fucking scary. I'm leaving a marriage. I'm leaving my entire life. I'm moving back, and I don't know if you want to give details, but like you had a transition period and then you bought a van, and we'll talk about van life in a little bit. But like what kind of belief and faith and like mindset did you have to have in order to make this happen?
So it was one morning I was walking on the beach with Olivia and recognizing, I don't know if it was a prior breathwork session or whatever, but it was really coming home, literally coming home to me and saying to myself, I will not abandon me. I will not abandon me. I will not abandon me. Because that first half of my life, that learning part of my life, I abandoned myself.
Mm.
And shifting is, I'm never going to allow myself to be small or my light diminished, or my soul's light behind those bars anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because I actually had a taste of what they felt like on the other side. So it
Mm.
was really coming home to trusting me, working with a trauma coach that helped me sit with the fucking uncomfortable, sit with the raw, sit with
Yeah.
the stuff that was okay in the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, as well as I do, like you can't sit with it all at once. It's like little increment
Yep.
pieces, and beginning to trust me, beginning to love me, beginning
Mm.
to feel and to acknowledge that I am worthy
Yeah.
and that I am enough all on my own.
Whew. So good. It's almost like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing this as like you went to that first breathwork session. And I think it's so cool that you're like, I got a taste of what life was like on the other side of the bars. And that was through that first breathwork session. Yeah. Which
Yes.
is so cool. So it's like you did this breathwork session. And again, if you've practiced breathwork before, you know, just as well as Victoria and I do, that breathwork helps us like feel ourselves, our bodies, and come back home to the truth of who we are. It's like the quickest avenue, in my opinion, to self-love, to like deep, deep, deep self-love. And it's like you had this breathwork session, you experience what life, you know. One time I had a girl, she's a teenager, actually, 19, 18 or 19. You know what? She might have been 17, because I remember having a conversation with her mom about like her mom had assigned the waiver for her. So she was 17. And after she came out of the session, I was asking for feedback and like, how are you guys feeling? And she raised her hand and she said, now I know what life is supposed to feel like.
Mm, at that
Yeah,
age. Oh.
I know. And it's like, I feel like that's what that was for you. It's like that first breath. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what life is supposed to feel like. This is what I am supposed to feel like in my body. And that was like your awakening to like, okay, but so why don't I? Like
Mhm.
I got a taste of what's on the other side of the bars when my soul comes through, but it's like, what are these bars that are standing in my way? And I'm sure
Mhm.
you got to take that even deeper. It's like, why am I so afraid to pull open the bars and escape? And
Yeah.
that's where all of this, deeper inner work really started for you. Yeah.
Mhm. There's a connection that just came to me, Sarah, that I want to bring into this space is that in my learning part of my life,
Mm.
there were actually runs in the woods. There were bike rides that were in immense amount of nature that I had this connection to something spiritual happening around me. Like I could feel and like a vibration around where I was in certain areas. And so that connection just came to me because like that's the same thing that I say it's not a thing, it's the same part that I felt in my soul, in my being,
Mm-hmm.
as when I did breathwork that session, that
Mm.
very first session. And so like I had little nuggets, little juicy pieces that were delivered to me in that learning time,
Yeah.
but it wasn't obviously time for me to learn it, but it stayed resonated in my body so that I
Mm-hmm.
was able to recognize it later.
Yeah. It's so again, just finished reading The Alchemist. Have you read it?
Yes, I finished
So
it.
the omens, it just reminds me of the omens.
Mhm.
It's like there were omens being delivered to you. And
Yeah.
then, you woke up to them one day. So, okay, this is also bringing forth a interesting question that I'm really curious about your perspective on. Because when I was thinking about this episode with you, I want to make it known because this is the way I feel right now that even though we are here saying like this is your permission slip to or like you can start at whatever human age you are, this is your permission slip for that. And it's also not an excuse to not start. So, and I feel like those of you listening will feel that truth and you're still listening for a reason. But it's like, it can be so easy. And I know this because I found myself here that it's like, oh, well, you know, Harry Bernstein didn't write his book till 93. So I've got 50 years. Like, I don't have to do it right now. Like, this isn't, in my opinion, this episode, it's not your excuse to stop waiting. It's your sign and like your permission to do it now, no matter where you're at in human years. So my question for you, Victoria, is what do you feel? Because like you said, there were these signs, these omens, these moments, but it wasn't my time yet. Like, do you feel like there is a time, or do you feel like it's like more so universe, God, soul of the worlds, higher power will send you these omens, hoping that you wake up and eventually one day you just finally decide to wake up to one of the omens?
Choice.
Yeah.
It's I mean, like part of me is putting together choice is that masculine, but also it's like tuning into what's in here. How does that feel? And merging the two together. Because like, okay, you have a choice of what I'm going to eat today, or you have a choice of, how you're going to drive to work or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like intuitively, where does it feel that it's your time? And sometimes like it's not sometimes, it's fucking scary. It's scary as hell to
Totally.
step out of that comfort zone because life was comfortable,
Yeah.
but I was numb. Like I was having thoughts that were not good thoughts, and really feeling that numbness and choosing. So that's the choice, and choosing no longer be there anymore, to no longer be in that numbness, in that
Mm-hmm.
state of detachment.
Mm-hmm.
Because truly it comes down to, for me, Sarah, is like we don't know how long we have on this earthly plane. Like
Right.
I want to enjoy every moment.
Totally.
and I wasn't. So
Yeah.
it was the choice to come home to me.
So good. So powerful. So yeah, it's just, I feel again, it's like, and I'm hoping you guys are feeling the inspiration, the energetics flowing through this episode, because like, and you said it yourself, there's always going to be fear. So there's always going to be fear. Like, let's just put that out there. It's never going away.
Mm.
Whether you're, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like our boy Harry, the fear will always be there. Like, I'm sure that Harry was fearful even at 97 publishing that book, but it's just deciding that it's worth it. Something I always come back to is, and that my soul delivered me as a truth is that when I think of my life and just staying stagnant and just like settling for where I'm at now, not that I don't love where I'm at now, because you guys all know it's both. It gets to be gratitude and desire, loving where you're at and desiring expansion and growth and evolution. But when I think of like staying where I'm at right now, because it's scary to take risks and to take chances and to take leaps of faith, when I think of that reality versus taking those leaps, those chances, those risks, and there's fear along with that, it's like, it feels, what I'm trying to say is it feels more scary to me, and it feels more painful to actually stay where I'm at than to face the fear, face the failure, face the pain, face the challenge that will come with choosing a different life, a better life, a bigger life, a more expanded life, whatever that is for you.
Agreed, 100%. So agreed. Yeah. It just, like, the fear of staying was bigger than the fear of launching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go back to your story. So like, you have all these awakenings and, you're listening to the Omen, you packed up your bag, you left the relationship, the marriage, then what?
Then I spent 10 months in South Florida, healing, growing, moving, crying, screaming, running, sitting at the beach under the full moon, diving into the ocean midnight on New Year's Eve naked, washing the
Oh
shit
my
away.
gosh, stop. You're such a badass. I just got the chills hearing that. That sounds dreamy.
Oh, but it was so nourishing. It's like it was an opportunity to just sit with all the stuff that needed to be moved through and the uncomfortableness of it.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of reaching out and asking for help,
Mm-hmm.
because that's super important.
Yep.
Um, and so within this 10 months, like there were the deep dark parts, and then there were the high parts, and then it was just this roller coaster. I attribute it to like the waves of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and really finding a place of harmony. And then I've had this desire for a while to hike the Pacific Crest Trail from Mexico to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really resonating within me at this time, because I really didn't have anything holding me down.
Mm-hmm.
But I recognized that my sweet chocolate lab, Olivia, wouldn't be able to go with me. And 6 months being without her, having somebody to take care of her for 6 months was a lot for somebody else to take on a responsibility. But also, I didn't want to be without her, because at this point in my life, like, she's my soul connection. And
Yeah.
I'm okay having that attachment to her.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to shift, because I recognized that that wasn't something that I was desiring, but also getting into what was my why. Why did I want to do this? I needed and I desired more healing,
Mm-hmm.
and to come back home to myself, that I can create safety for myself. I can create this opportunity to know that I have the ability to keep myself safe, and I have the ability to love on me. So what the next thing launched into my world was buying a van and living in a van. I didn't desire to have any roots or any foundation anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So put it out there. You were one of the people that I put it
Okay.
out there
Can I
to.
just say real quickly, it's wild, the timing of this podcast. So we are recording it at the end of January, but we're dropping this episode in February. And I have the chills everywhere. February is when I did the Confident and Courageous Creatrix of last year, a year ago. And in that course, I will never forget Victoria saying, we were talking about that entire course is all about tapping into your inner courage and confidence and being the creatrix, which is like bringing your dream life to fruition. And I'll never forget you sharing that I have this vision of buying a van and facilitating breathwork at this festival. And it's fucking scary. And like, we really focused on that in that course. And you did it. And I remember having this conversation with you. That's like, can you just apply and just trust that you're going to have a van? And if you don't, you can go in your freaking car, you can go in a tent, or you can cancel. And then I remember us looking into the repercussions of, and this is the thing, you guys, too. It's like fears, break them down. Like, okay, what if? Right? Okay, what if you cancel? I remember us looking into it. Well, then you can't be invited back for XYZ. Okay, who fucking cares? You go find another festival. I remember us working through that a year ago. And
Holy
look at
hell.
where you're at now. It's so like you're literally living in a van, traveling the United States, facilitating breathwork at festivals, like building this beautiful business. Just the timing and the synchronicity of that is blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, that is so crazy, because I think at that time too, Sarah, that I traveled to the west coast of Florida to look at a van, and just to put eyes on a van and what I wanted and what I didn't want, and knowing that the timing wasn't right. And then us having that conversation, okay, well, here's backups, but this is what I truly desire. And selling my house in Florida, the timing was at the height of the market of selling. So I've got a good savings to be able to put into launching my business and fully being able to travel the country to facilitate breathwork virtually and at van festivals. So that balance happened selling my house the end of June, buying the van almost 3 days. Well, it was 3 days before my birthday of July 1st. I bought the van, and Olivia and I left. We left South Florida. We traveled to Southern Idaho, was able to hold space for 25 beautiful people at a van festival in the mountains of Southern Idaho, where it's green and so vibey, to just like living this life that fully sets my soul on fire. And I'm not going to also diminish the fact that it's fucking scary.
Yeah.
Like, there's nights I don't know where I'm going to sleep.
Right.
There's places that I've been, I'm like, oof, full body, oh hell no, I'm not staying here. But also like recognizing that this is my home. This is my home on wheels. I did this.
Yeah.
I created this space for me, this loving, nurturing space for me. And that's all I need.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And I also feel too that like something that came up when you were saying that is just realizing that, and this is what a lot of us don't get. And I mean, I think this is an ever evolving journey, and there's always a deepening of this, what I'm about to say, but it's like our true homes are in our bodies. Because our souls, that's our truth. That's who we are. And our soul's home is our body. It can be really easy for us to think that my house, the roof over my head, is my home. My apartment is my home. My van is my home. My whatever it is my home. But that's our mind's home, but we are not our minds, right? It's our body's home, but we are not our bodies. Our souls, that's who we are. And our soul's home is our bodies, which is just another reason why all of this work is so powerful, this inner work, this inner journey, because it really helps us awaken that truth that our bodies are our homes.
Yeah.
The only homes we'll ever have.
Right. It's coming back to that from the outside perceived perfect life of the home, beautiful home that I had in Costa Rica, this beautiful country, but I wasn't at home. Like, it was so detached from here. And now that, I mean, I get to be in this life, this life that I love. interacting with people that I would have never met. Like I'm on this journey in Mexico with these other humans that I would have never met in any other world or in the past in the world that I was
Mhm.
previous, and knowing that I can lean on them if I need to. I got my van stuck in the sand. Like, okay, so now what do I do? Oh, okay, so he has traction boards. He digs out my tires, puts the traction boards in, and off I go. I'm like, hey, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Can I offer you anything? He's like, no, that's from the kindness of my heart. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful place to live from.
Yeah. Well, yeah, connecting with these humans and like the wisdom that comes from that unconditional love, that unconditional giving. And I'm sure you feel this, but whenever somebody does something like that for me, and it's just a true unconditional act of love, it activates my heart and my soul. And it's like, oh, how can I do that for somebody? And this is what life is all about, right? The love and the connection. That's what it comes down to. And I think another really cool thing, and I want to circle back to another thing that you had mentioned, is you're learning at 53 years young how to get a van unstuck from the mud. I know that I've seen stories on your Instagram. You guys, if you don't follow her, follow her. She gives so many behind the scenes of your hood of your van up. Like you're learning how to, fix vans, and how cool, how freaking cool. And it just goes to show that you're never too old to learn something new. Something I want you to speak a little bit more on is the duality. So you did say that, I'm not going to lie, it can be very, very scary. And there is this duality that exists. And I think that you do a beautiful job of showing that on your stories, which is, I know, so appreciated by everybody who's following your journey. But I think just thinking of, people who might be listening to this who are contemplating, do I take that leap? Do I take that leap of faith and take that risk? It's like, but again, coming back to these fears, but it's going to be scary because like we were talking about earlier, it's scary to stay stagnant. It's also a comfort zone where you feel safe. It's also scary to go after your dreams out of the comfort zone where you're on a journey to finding body safety because you don't always feel that safety, that certainty. So to speak to the people who are like, I don't know, I feel like it's too scary. It's too much. It's too big. I don't know if I can achieve that. What would you say to them?
I would first ask them in their current situation where they are you truly safe?
Mm,
Are you truly safe? Are you truly happy? Every part of you, are you truly happy?
mhm,
Can you feel the desire to get up the next day and to be at bliss with being where you are? And if there's any part of you that says no, then I invite you to look deeper into that. It's like, okay, where am I playing small? Where can I grow even more? And
mhm,
so coming back to that fear of being in that pseudo safe place, or creating a life where you are safe because you have your own back.
mhm.
So it's and I don't want to encourage anybody to do something that they're truly not comfortable with. So it's really coming home to, in my van, I'm safe. I know I'm safe. I have created that masculine space of, I get to a campsite before dark. I walk Olivia before dark.
Mhm.
I know where I'm going to be. I've Google Earthed it.
Yep.
So that's creating that safety
Yep.
of that fear of that potentially
Yep.
being unsafe.
Totally.
And also, like, things could go wrong in the van, but that's fearful too. Like my fuse, I didn't have battery
Mhm.
backup and all the things. So I have a connection with my van builder that gives me safety that
Mhm.
I can connect with him.
Yeah.
So it's the fear. What is the fear, and how
Mhm.
can you create a little bit of a foundation that you can go and ask for help? I think our society is so driven that I have to do this all on my own,
Yep.
and that, like, there's such a fallacy with that, because you
Yeah.
don't have to do it all on your own. You
Yeah.
don't have to do it on your own. So who can I ask for help for? Who can I lean on? Like, I leaned on you in those 10 months.
Mhm.
I leaned on my van builder. I got bit by a dog the first day here in Mexico. I needed to be driven to the ER clinic. I leaned on the lady that I was traveling with.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's fearful, it's scary, but where can you create that safety net too?
I love, okay, we're on to something so big. I love all of that. So God, we could literally be here for 5 hours. Um, I want to go into that a little bit because something you had said was like, I don't want to encourage anybody to do anything they're not comfortable with. And my first thought was like, I do. Because you don't grow in comfort zones. So I want to encourage you to do the uncomfortable. However, I want to shine light on the truth to what you're saying. It's such a good one because there's so many examples. I'm thinking of this in my life. It's like, it's always going to be scary. There is something to be said about creating more of that masculine container or that solid foundation, if you will, so that your nervous system, I'm not going to say it's always regulated because it never will be, but it's like that foundation helps us to regulate our nervous systems so that, you know, all the fear we take on from there, at least we have that solid foundation. So when you were speaking, something I was thinking about is my transition into living in Lisbon a year ago. And I went by myself. And so, of course, there were a lot of fears, mental, emotional, and then just like safety in general that were embedded in that. But like you're saying, it was like I got to create that solid foundation, create that masculine container, those boundaries. And I think I shared them at some point in some course, but it was like, you know, little things like make sure I have Google Maps downloaded so that I always will know where I'm at. Like first things first, go get a SIM card. They just had boundaries around like where I walked, what neighborhoods I explored. And that helped me set that solid foundation for my nervous system. And of course, there were still fears beyond that, but having that foundation, having that masculine container, whatever it looks like for you, can be really, really helpful when you're taking that leap.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Like even one that just came to me, Sarah, is when the first, let's see, I've been in the van 6 solid months. So the first 4 months I had my location services on for a core group of people in my life. And every night I would check in. Like, here's my spot.
Yeah.
Here's my spot. So like that is an opportunity, like that's the opportunity to create that safety within myself.
Yeah.
So and speaking to, like, I don't want to encourage anybody to do something that they're not comfortable with, but yeah, step out of your comfort zone to the place that you'll have no regrets.
Right.
Have no regrets.
Right. Yeah. I'm just thinking of so many examples of like, and I'm sure we could come up with a billion, but it's just, I guess, just asking yourself that question. Like if you're at a place where you're like, oh my gosh, my fear is absolutely paralyzing me. Just ask yourself the question, what is like Victoria had asked you guys earlier, what is the fear? Like get to the root of it, get to the core of it. And then like I had suggested, it's like break down that fear. So like we did with you a year ago, it's like, okay, you enroll for VanFest, you get the position as breathwork facilitator at this VanFest. You end up bailing last minute because you don't whatever have a van or transportation. Then what? It's like really, I was actually just talking to a client about this the other day. She's starting a yoga business, but she was having these fears come up around losing her day job. And I'm like, let's just break down the fear, sit with it. You lose your day job, then what? Well, I don't know. I get another job. I'm like, okay. And then are you going to be okay? She's like, yeah, I either get another job or I go balls to the wall in my business and like, just make that my job. It's a lot of the time. So it's like the fear, a lot of the times the fears, if you really break them down, it's like, oh damn, that wouldn't be that bad. Like I would be okay. So it's like break down the fears and ask yourself, is there any steps that I can take to create more of that solid foundation in my system or a masculine container that I can create for myself to help? Because this goes back to what course were we just talking about this in? Femme Awakening. Was it Femme Awakening or Next Level New Year? I can't remember. Personal power, circumstantial power. It's okay. It's okay to have that circumstantial power, which circumstantial power is I feel safe because. So it's like, I feel safe because I have Google Maps downloaded to my phone and I know I'm always going to know where I'm at. I feel safe because I can share my location on Uber now. Like I can send that to my partner and to my mom. And circumstantial power is okay, but it's just like we also need that personal power because you're not always going to have that circumstantial power. So that personal power is more of that inner work, that awakening, that safety is in my body. I'm always going to be okay. Like I got this. I got me. Like I'm going to be all right.
Yeah. And it's tuning into, I mean, some people call it that little voice inside your head, or tuning into like into your intuition, your internal system, as to what feels off when you're creating that safety within yourself. So for example, I pulled up to Harvest Host camp, and I felt within me, I didn't like this space. Something didn't feel right. And so it's listening to that and going, okay, I don't have to stay here. So what,
Yep.
I pissed the people off. Like, that's not my responsibility. I'm going to
Yeah.
leave.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. We could get down another entire rabbit hole with that one. But we got to start to wrap this up. You're totally going to come back on the show. But Victoria, I want to begin to wrap this up by just asking you if there's anything else that you have to share on this topic. And if not, if so, do it. If not, I would love for you to share with the listeners where they can find you and how they can work with you.
To not make the episode too much longer, like if anybody has questions, like just ask people that you look up to, or ask people that you desire to have this, I don't want to say the same, but the same, like a parallel with, meaning that you love their energy, you love their spirit, you love who they're being. Seek that person out and ask them, like, can I be part of your world? Like, I believe if that's what I did with you. Like after breathwork teacher training, like I want to be part of your world in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
And there's also our friend Rachel, like I want to be part of her world. She lives in Colorado. I spent 3 weeks with her. Like seek that out so that you can experience a bigger, broader life that is so encompassing that if you were to die tomorrow, tonight, that you go, holy shit, what a fucking ride.
Yeah. Okay. Real quick, because I actually was going to say this and I forgot, but it's so hand in hand. The Alchemist. They kept going back to this. And I'm not sure how you guys perceived it when you read this, but they kept talking about that the boy's fear was death. Because at the end of the day, when you really break down every single fear to its teeny, 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 tiny core, it's dying.
It's dying.
The mind is survival. It's here to keep us alive. The core fear is dying. And in that book, the boy's fear of death kept coming up, and he kept being told by the alchemist, by all these guides, by the omens, you're going to die no matter what, whether it's now or, 10 years, at least you're dying on your journey to fulfilling your personal legend. And the boy was like, whoa, yeah, like I'm okay with that. Like, at least I'm on my way to my personal legend. And if I die now, I know at least that, like, you sliding in the grave sideways, at least I know that I did so on my way. And now that's a bit extreme, but like, it just, I don't know. I feel like in Mary and I on our last episode, or on our last podcast, we did a whole episode on like death and like regrets on deathbed. And in there, I was talking about how like really sitting with death, which is like really scary for people, and a lot of people don't, has totally helped me change my perspective on this journey. And it really was a huge catalyst for me saying fuck yes to my dreams. And it still is every single day. Journey of Souls is also a book that kind of helped me with all of this, but yeah.
Yeah, there's, I could go more, Sarah. Like at 50, before my ultra marathon, my dad passed away, and I saw him having regrets, and that's when I fully chose to never have any regrets getting to the end of my life. And like coming back to The Alchemist, like there's, oh mercy, I just lost my train of thought. Because there's so much beauty in that book, and The Alchemist. Like there's just, like he kept gifting his ability and his gifts to other people. That's what came to me, is that I for me, it's what can I give somebody else? How can I shine my light into somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
And not so that they become like me, but the fellow that got me unstuck from the sand.
Yeah.
I made fish tacos last night and he was there. Like that was my gift. So how can I shine my gifts for other people to witness?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of holy shit, what a fucking ride. Like the adventures of life. Like it's not
Yeah.
only keeping it for myself, but it's also gifting it too.
Totally. And it reminds me of just, I mean, again, this is not going to be time aligned to when you guys listen to this episode, but it reminds me of, I just got engaged on Friday and I know I'm so happy. I will never get off this energetic high, I don't think. But I got engaged Friday and I was only Zach and I knew. And so I spent pretty much that entire morning sharing the news with my sister and like my best friends. I FaceTimed them all and screen recorded it so I could, capture wasn't it the best? So like I did so. First of all, it was like, I have this proposal and it felt so happy and so amazing for me. And I knew that it was just going to like bring that joy, that love within every one of my best friends and family members. And so like, being able to gift that to them and like let them in on my love and my excitement and sharing that joy and then recording it and putting together a reel for everybody else. Like my aunt so many people commented like, oh my gosh, I'm crying. And it's like, this is what life is all about. The love, the connection, the joy, the excitement. And that's not to diminish the challenge, the struggle, the trauma, like all of that is so real. It's so valid. We live in a life full of duality. And at the end of the day, it's like the love, the giving, the receiving, the enjoying. It's love. It's love. And so, Victoria, I'm glad that you wrapped us with that because for all of you listening, and I'm asking myself as well, what can you give today? Like, how can you be a vessel of love? Who can you reach out to? That's just like, I'm giving just because I want to give from my heart, not from ego, not because Victoria and Sarah said I should, or now, not because you feel obligated to. Like, if that's the vibe that you feel when you hear me say that, let it go, like dismiss it. But if you're feeling lit up from this conversation, I want you to tap into your heart and ask yourself, who can I give to today from this heart center? Or how can I give? It doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be like gifting. Obviously, everything Victoria and I just talked about had nothing to do with money. You could send somebody a gift, maybe send somebody flowers or something, but maybe it's like, somebody's struggling and you reach out to them and you say, hey, do you want me to hold space for you right now? Or maybe you see somebody, I don't know, on the side of the road and you like pull over and ask them if they need help. Like, how can you give back today or this week?
And it's a simple gesture. Also, one of my it's not a mantra, it's not a to-do, but one of my gifts that I get to give when I'm running is when I pass somebody, I say good morning, because generally I'll run in the morning. It's just good morning.
So good. Or even what comes up for me in there is the grocery store. And I've noticed, and like, this is something I'm still exploring, but again, I think this is like my introverted nature, which I've been talking about quite a bit lately. But in the grocery store, I've noticed that I would be very hermity, like introverty, like look down, not look other people in the eyes. And that's something I'm working on. And it's because when I'm in the grocery store and somebody nods to me, or we have a grocery store called Meijer near us, and the general manager, if anybody's listening who has Meijer connections, the Naps Corner Meijer, that general manager is amazing. Every time we go in there, he always is like, hey, how you guys doing? You find everything okay? And it's just when somebody, a stranger especially, smiles at you or greets you or nods at you, it's just your heart bursts.
Like
It just feels so good.
You're gifting them energy. Like it's so beautiful. Yeah.
So beautiful. Okay. Again, Victoria, thank you so much for being here. Tell us how to work with you.
You can work with me. I am on Instagram at Victoria Lee Starr with 2 R's. Sarah will drop that in the show notes, I'm sure.
Yes.
I'm also on Facebook under Victoria Starr. My website is Victoria Lee Starr. LEESTARR.
I will link that as well.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll link all the things, but tell us about your containers, like your breathwork facilitator, your soul activation coach. Like, what offerings do you have right now?
Thank you. So if you happen to be in a van and you're traveling around to van festivals, I will be on the West Coast this summer at lots of different van festivals, giving free breathwork sessions to the community. I also have virtual breathwork sessions that I'll be holding twice a month for the year. I do private breathwork sessions virtually and in person. I did one in Joshua Tree, which was amazing. Let's see. So I also have my Learn to Love running course
Which we'll
that
link in the show notes.
Yeah, that's live on my website. What am I forgetting?
Actually, I think you covered it all.
Yeah.
So Victoria holds the most amazing containers, especially with the breathwork and like you immerse coaching into there. It's like soul activation coaching and breathwork, which is just like, it feels like nourishment in my body just saying that.
Yeah, it's like
So,
it's truly coming home to me to giving you that gift.
Yeah, like you're offering the containers and the space that were held for you when you really made this transition and came back home to you and your body, which I think is just so beautiful. I mean, obviously Victoria is certified in all the things, and I feel like your experiences and what you've gone through and your story is just like what makes you the most magical space holder, the most magical guide, mentor, and coach. So thank you, Victoria, for doing what you do, for saying yes to your personal legend, for saying yes to you, and just for being the vessel of love and light that you are. You're truly a gift to the world.
I so love you.
I love you so much. Thank you again for being here. And that concludes today's show. Thank you so much for listening. And if you are listening before May 1st of 2023, be sure to leave a rating and a review to be entered into a giveaway for a grand prize of an entire whole ass course or portal with me, a very vibey journal, and also a piece of merch from my up and coming merchandise line. This giveaway is valued at over $1,300, so it's one that you don't want to miss out on. Again, leave a rating and a review below, whether you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, or if you're listening somewhere else, I'll give you another way to enter into this giveaway. Just DM me. All right, I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.